Mrs. Johnston here, and it is Knowledge and Social Studies time. We are working on Unit 7, Kings and Queens, Lesson 5, Sing a Song of Sixpence. The read aloud that you are going to hear today is a nursery rhyme that was written a long time ago to describe a king and queen in England. Mrs. Johnston pulled out our globe again. We are going to hear the nursery rhyme today, which is a story from England. England is a country that is part of the United Kingdom right here on the globe. Remember, we talked earlier in our read alouds about England and heard about some kings who ruled in England long ago. It may be difficult to understand parts of today's nursery rhyme because it was written long ago using different words than we use today. We are going to hear two words in our read aloud: sixpence and rye. Sixpence means money. Pence is the British word for a penny. So 6 pence would be 6 pennies. Rye is a kind of grain that is often ground into flour to make bread. Because today's story is another nursery rhyme about a king, just like Old King Cole is a nursery rhyme about a king also. Old King Cole was a merry old soul, and a merry old soul was he. He called for his pipe, he called for his bowl, and he called for his fiddlers 3. Every fiddler had a very fine fiddle, and a very fine fiddle had he. Oh, there's none so rare as can compare with King Cole and his fiddlers 3. We are going to discuss rhyming words. Rhyming words have different beginning sounds, but end with the same sound. Which words in Old King Cole rhyme? Can you give me a word that rhymed with coal? Did you say soul or bowl? Coal, soul, bowl all rhyme. Who can give me a word that rhymed with he out of our nursery rhyme today? Did you say 3, he, 3 rhyme? How about rare? Can you give me a word out of our nursery rhyme today that weren't rhymed with rare? Did you say compare? Rare, compare, rhyme. Remember, words that have different beginning sounds but end with the same sound are said to rhyme. You are going to hear another nursery rhyme called Sing a Song of Sixpence. You are going to hear about a very unusual or special pie in this read aloud. Listen carefully to find out more about the special pie in the rhyme. Listen as I read through the nursery rhyme. Then we will practice it using our echo technique. Sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye, 24 blackbirds baked in a pie. When the pie was opened, The birds began to sing. Now wasn't that a dainty dish to set before the king? The king was in his counting house, counting out his money. The queen was in the parlor, eating bread and honey. The maid was in the garden, hanging out the clothes. And when down came a blackbird and pecked at her toes. All right, are you ready to practice echoing? I will read a line. I will point at you and pause for you to read the line. Sing a song of sixpence. A packet full of rye. 24 blackbirds baked in a pie. When the pie was opened, the birds began to sing. Now wasn't that a dainty dish to set before the king? The king was in his counting house, counting out his money. The queen was in the parlor, eating bread and honey. The maid was in the garden, hanging out the clothes. When down came a blackbird and pecked at her toes. Thank you for practicing this nursery rhyme with Mrs. Johnston. I am going to read the nursery rhyme through one more time. Sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye, 24 blackbirds baked in a pie. When the pie was opened, the birds began to sing. A long time ago, people sometimes put live birds on top of pies and covered them with a lid made of dough. When the lid was opened, the live birds would fly out. People thought this was a fancy way to celebrate a special occasion. Now, wasn't that a dainty dish to set before the king? The word dainty means fancy, small, and pretty. Do you think this pie is really dainty? How many of you said yes? Why did you say yes? How many of you said no? And why did you say no? If you said yes, did your response include because I like birds? I think birds are pretty. I like pie. Pie is pretty. If you said no, did you say something like this? Birds do not belong in a pie. They would make it unclean, therefore unable to eat. The king was in his counting house, counting out his money. The queen was in the parlor, eating bread and honey. The queen is sitting in a fancy room called a parlor, which is used for entertaining royal guests. The maid was in the garden, hanging out the clothes. The maid had just washed the clothes and was hanging them on a clothesline. Why was she hanging the clothes on a clothesline? Did you say so that the clothes would dry? When down came a blackbird and pecked at her toes. The word pecked means the bird was poking at the maid's toes with its beak. Birds do not usually bother people, so this would not happen in real life. What are the king, the queen, and the maid doing? Let's talk about the king first. What was the king doing? Did you say counting his money? The king was counting his money. What about the queen? What was the queen doing? Did you remember the queen was eating bread and honey? And what about the maid? What was the maid doing? Did you remember hanging wet clothes on a clothesline? Why would the activities that the king and queen are doing be considered royal activities? Did you say because the king and queen are royal? Anything that the king or queen does is considered royal. Who are the three characters in this nursery rhyme? Did you say all three? King, queen, maid? Did you get one, two? The three characters in this rhyme are the king, the queen, and the maid. How are the actions of the king and queen different from the actions of the maid? Did you say the king and queen are doing royal activities while the maid is working? Why would someone give a special pie to a king? Someone would give the king a special pie because the king is royal and people wanted to please him. What kind of special pie is described in this rhyme? Did you say the pie has live blackbirds on top that fly out when the pie is opened? Mrs. Johnston hopes you enjoyed our story today, our nursery rhyme, Sing a Song of Sixpence.